Good morning. We're going to go back to Exodus chapter 35, and we're going to start in verse 24. It says, "Everyone that did offer an offering of silver and brass brought the Lord's offering. And every man with whom was found shittim wood for any work of the service brought it. And all the women that were wise-hearted did spin with their hands, and brought that which they had spun, both of blue and of purple and of scarlet and of fine linen. And all the women whose heart stirred them up in wisdom spun goats' hair." So we're talking about them getting these things ready for the tabernacle, to make their worship place, the place where they could meet with God. And here it is, the women are bringing all of their offerings. They're not just bringing offerings, but they're doing things, did spin with their hands. They made these from yarn or from whatever they had. They made the blue, they spun the blue and purple and scarlet and fine linen. They made it from scratch, from what they had. Linen, I think, is made out of flax, so they must have brought all of that with them. And they made the linen, and they made the blue and the purple and the scarlet fabric. And you can almost see them saying, "I'm gonna make this." And as they were making it, they're knowing that the blue and the purple and the scarlet and the fine linen were going to be, some of it's going to be the hangings at the tabernacle, and some of them was going to be for the clothes of the priests. They were making something that was going to be God's, and God was going to be in. So it was something that they were working. And it says all the women that were wise-hearted, meaning they understood in their heart what this was all about and how important it was for them to make something beautiful. And all the women whose hearts stirred them up in wisdom spun goat's hair. They didn't have to have things they brought. They could get it from the goats that they were raising or had raised. And they were spinning it from goat's hair. In verse 27, "And the rulers brought onyx stones and stones to be set for the ephod and for the breastplate." Remember that breastplate had 12 different stones on it, and they had to have stones for each one for each of the tribes. And spice, and then 28 says, "And spice and oil for the light, and for the anointing oil, and for the sweet incense." So the rulers brought all those things. They gathered them up probably from the people that they had rule over, and let the people give it to them, and they brought it. And then it says in verse 29, "The children of Israel brought a willing offering unto the Lord, every man and woman whose heart made them willing to bring for all manner of work, which the Lord had commanded to be made by the hand of Moses." Every man and woman whose heart made them willing to bring for all manner of work. See, God, He wants us to give from our hearts. He wants us to do things from our hearts. Our hearts sometimes cry out for the need to be met. We want people to be helped. We want things to work well. And our hearts are feeling that. And when we follow our hearts to do for God what He needs us to do, then everything will work together the way it needs to. And so God was saying, this whole tabernacle, all of the hangings, all of the wood, all of everything, the gold and the silver and everything, all of it was made from people bringing it with a willing heart. So, wasn't it a wonderful place? Yes, it was. Chapter 30. And I want to say that about, I've seen some beautiful church buildings. We have a little garage apartment, and we have done the best we can right now having that. And I'm not saying our church is not good. It is. But I've seen some churches, the congregation of a church, get together and either build them a new church or remodel what they have, and it turns out so beautiful. And it was done with all their willing hearts. They didn't pay anybody to do it. They just did it with a willing heart. You can go in there and you can feel that they're very content and happy with their church that they've made. It's really special how they've either built them a church or have remodeled a building to make their church. We remodeled that garage. It was a garage apartment. We remodeled it for our church. I remember it had a low ceiling, and I knew that I couldn't hold my hands up in worship and not feel so cramped down. I said, we need to take this ceiling out when we were remodeling it. And when we started pulling down the ceiling, well, it had a bunch of these little pebbles in it that were insulation. It came snowing down on our heads. But when we got the ceiling pulled down, we looked up. And if you've been in our church, the wood is beautiful overhead. It is. And Brother Michael and Brother Don and Brother Hubert, who was here at that time, they worked on the, I forgot what they are called. Anyhow, they lifted them, raised them, so that our church has plenty of room up ahead. Not so much room around us, but up ahead. We've got plenty of headroom to worship with, worship in. And that was done, we did that out of our hearts, our willing hearts. And then it was wonderful because in the temple they made things out of, when they made the temple later on in the Bible, they made things out of cedar and fir, and Brother Michael used cedar and fir to fix the taller part of our church out of cedar and fir. We just, the Lord just blessed us to remodel that little building that we have. And so far it's been large enough. We've thought about enlarging it at times, but we've not been crowded out. The Lord has just blessed us to be able to be watched by thousands of people, but not in person. So we have plenty of room in our church. So, but this, all of this making of places to worship and making it nice, making it pleasing to the Lord, that's what this is about right here in Exodus chapter 35. It's talking about people offering willingly to make the house of God really just what he wants. And verse 30 says, And Moses said unto the children of Israel, See, the Lord hath called by name Bezaleel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah, and he hath filled him with the Spirit of God in wisdom and understanding, and in knowledge, and in all manner of workmanship, to devise curious works, to work in gold, and in silver, and in brass, and in the cutting of stones, to set them, and in carving of wood, to make any manner of cunning work. So Bezaleel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur, and we know about him. Who was Hur, and what did he do? Was he the other one that when they came out of Egypt, he helped hold up Moses' hands when they fought the Amalekites? Let's go all the way back there, where they're coming out of Egypt, and the Amalekites are threatening them. Let's see if we covered that yet. Maybe we haven't covered that yet. I don't remember for sure. Yeah, here it is. Chapter 17, we did cover it. It says, So Joshua did as Moses had said to them, and fought with Amalek. And Moses, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill. But Moses' hands were heavy, and they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat thereon. And Aaron and Hur stayed up his hands, the one on the one side and the other on the other side, and his hands were steady until the going down of the sun. So Aaron and Hur, and here we are, Bezaleel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur. So Hur's grandson is Bezaleel of the tribe of Judah. Hur's grandson is the one that is this man that is gifted. God filled him with the Spirit of God. He's filled him in wisdom, in understanding, and in knowledge, and in all manner of workmanship. Yet he could do all kinds of things, to devise curious works, to work in gold and in silver and in brass, and in cutting of stones, to set them, and in carving of wood, to make any manner of cunning work. So anything you wanted her to do, he is able to do. So Moses could have told him, this is what God showed me on the mountain. This is what it looked like. And Hur's brain would start working. And Hur knew he could make it. When it says Hur, he, it's funny. But it's H-U-R, not H-E-R. Anyhow, so he knew what to do. He had the skill in all manner of workmanship. And then it says, and he hath put in his heart that he may teach both he and Aholiab, the son of Ahisamach of the tribe of Dan. So the tribe of Dan had this man Aholiab, and he was the partner with Bezaleel. And they could teach, put in his heart that he may teach, and he was going to teach the others, the people around him, how to help him. Then them hath he filled with wisdom of heart, to work all manner of work, of the engraver, of the cunning workman, of the embroiderer, in blue and in purple and scarlet and in fine linen, and of the weaver, even of them that do any work, and of those that devise cunning work. So they had to weave the fabric. They were out. They weren't like they could go to a store and buy any of this stuff. They couldn't. They had they had what they needed to make it. They had yarn that could be spun and woven. They had goat's hair. Amazing to me, they had badger skins, ram skins, and they had to have red dye, which I don't know where they got that, but probably had it with them. So they had everything they needed. They had the materials they needed to work with. But these two men, Bezaleel and Aholiab, you want to see what their names mean? Let's see if we can see it. That would be interesting to look at. Let's look at Bezaleel. Bezaleel, that's an interesting name, isn't it? I really don't know of anybody else named Bezaleel. Never heard of anybody named that but him. Even in the Bible, I don't think there's another Bezaleel. And let's see, here we go. Bezaleel. Beth. Okay. Bezaleel. All right, you couldn't guess it. It says the shadow of God. The shadow of God. Now, can God make a shadow? Is there anything greater than God? So nothing can be behind him to make a shadow. Something greater, like the sun. If the sun's behind us and we look down, there's our shadow, right? Because the great sun is shining behind us. The great light. But God, nothing can make a shadow. But in being close to God, you could call that being the shadow of God. Somebody that is with him. Right? You know, the other day we were walking, I looked down and I could see myself. It looked like myself. It was my shadow. And to be God's shadow, would be somebody that looks like him and acts like him. And this man was so filled with the Spirit of God, he could do all kinds of things. And so could God, couldn't he? God could do any of it. He didn't really have to work at making it. He could just create it. But this is what Bezaleel was able to do. And then let's look up at Holiab. Bezaleel met the shadow of God. Let's see what Aholiab meant. H-I. Aholiab. It means, his name means Father's tent. Now, isn't that interesting? Because it seems like that he was the one, the other one was, Bezaleel was mentioned about workmanship and all kinds of the gold and the brass and all that. But when it mentions Aholiab, it begins to talk about all manner of work of the engraver, of the cunning workman, of the embroiderer in blue and purple and scarlet and fine linen, of the weaver, even of them that do any work, and of those that devise cunning work. Sounds like it's talking about the fabrics, working with the fabrics or working with the tent covers. And this Aholiab meant Father's tent. Father's tent. So he was probably the one that was going to make his Father's tent, which is God. God is our Father. He was probably called from the time he was born to make his Father's tent. Amazing, huh? And that's what he did. May we all do what we were born to do, what God had us come to do. Aholiab was. Bezaleel could, did. Let us do that too. I'm going to go. I'll see you tomorrow. We'll start chapter 36. Bye.